There's a lot of people out there that don't really know all the ins and outs of suppressors, and there's a little bit of like fear and anxiety about it. Can you just tell us about like where suppressors started and where they're at right now and like the most popular uses for them?
Suppressors have been around for a long time. Actually, they are regulated by the National Firearms Act, and that took place. That went into effect in the 30s. So they were being used prior to that. They were patented in the early 1900s, and unfortunately, were wrapped up in the National Firearms Act, where they became a regulated item along the lines of machine guns, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, destructive devices. So since the early 30s, to own a suppressor in the United States, you've got to follow the NFA rules, which are fingerprints, photos, you fill out a federal Form 4, you undergo a background check, and then once all that is processed, you then are able to own the suppressor. And that is right now legal in 42 out of 50 states. So nowadays, you see them in movies, right? That's probably where most people see their suppressors. And there's a lot of myths in Hollywood about, we call it Hollywood quiet. You see someone shooting in a crowd and nobody's listening or nobody's hearing it. But what we see nowadays for suppressor use is very big in the hunting industry. It's big in the personal defense side of shooting, right? People who are going to have a home protection firearm, they want to suppress it. So if they actually have to discharge that firearm indoors, it doesn't destroy their hearing. Recreational shooters, anybody that's going to do a high volume of rounds or even a low volume of rounds, it's just so much nicer to shoot with a silencer. And one thing I'll set straight here early: silencer, suppressor, can, they're all interchangeable, right? The company's named Silencer Co. So you'll hear people say, well, it's not really a silencer, it's a suppressor because it doesn't silence the round. But the original patent on silencers was a silencer. So you'll hear me use all three terms. Some people prefer one or the other. I tend to throw around all three.
Nice. And, like one of the main benefits too is like people don't really think about it a ton, but it's getting your kids into shooting because it's gonna,
Correct.
It's gonna suppress your recoil. It's gonna make it a lot quieter. It's gonna make it just a much more enjoyable shooting experience.
Absolutely.
People have this like sort of negative stigma with them just because there's so many, forms you have to fill, the fingerprints like you talked about. But man, like in order to like enjoy shooting and introduce people to it, it's arguably the best tool for doing that.
Absolutely. We see a lot of brand new shooters at live fire events that we do, and they'll come up, they've never shot a gun before. You can see they're visibly a little bit afraid to shoot. We'll usually step up, we'll start them on like a 22 rifle or pistol, and you can kind of see the anxiety just melt away after they shoot that first round. They're like, oh, that was it, and they'll take off their hearing protection, they'll shoot it, they'll listen to it, and they're like, wow, that's really not what I expected. You step them up from there into a larger caliber, maybe a 9mm or 300 blackout, something like that. And before you know it, that person who is afraid to shoot is over here shooting a 12 gauge suppressed,
Yeah.
So it takes about 5 minutes to get them comfortable with the sound and the recoil. And the same thing for hunting, right? If you've got kids that you want to get into it, obviously everybody's hearing is sensitive, kids especially. The last thing you want to do is take your kid out and have them damage their hearing with a 308 in the deer stand. But you are able to reduce the recoil and you're able to reduce the sound. It helps with accuracy. It really just makes the shooting experience, the hunting experience, that much more enjoyable.